Well, another year has come and gone, and if I were to sum up the year of 2013 in film, don't get me wrong, there have been some good movies that come out, and that's what the purpose of this list is, but there was never a movie this year that made me go, oh my god, I absolutely adore this movie. This is my favorite movie of the year, no question. I mean, last year that was Avengers, and this year, well, there was no Avengers. But I found 10 movies that I did really, really like or love, and that's what this list's for. Here's my top 10 best movies of 2013. Also, keep in mind that this is just a list of the movies that I personally enjoyed the most throughout the year. This is not a list of the absolute definitive best movies of 2013. That list would be completely different, and I can't make that list because film is a matter of opinion. So I suggest you respect my opinion, I'll respect yours. But before we get into the top 10, like I had in my video on my old channel of 2012 favorite movies, I had a spot for the biggest surprise of the year. Meaning a movie that I wasn't looking forward to that much, saw it and ended up really liking it because I had no expectations. So this year, that movie is The Wolverine. Ironic since last year was The Amazing Spider-Man. But you've seen me review X-Men Origins Wolverine. I fucking hate that movie to oblivion, so I didn't have high hopes for this one, but it turned out to be pretty entertaining. Not my favorite superhero movie. I wouldn't even say this movie's in the top 15 of superhero movies, but it's still pretty good. A slight redemption for Wolverine, and Hugh Jackman has established himself to be Wolverine. And even though the ending might be a little odd, it's still a really, really entertaining movie that I had fun seeing. It got me excited for X-Men Days of Future Past, and I'm happy that Fox has continued to resurrect my interest in the X-Men film franchise. Now let's get into my 10 favorite movies of the year. Number 10 is a movie that I saw very recently. I did review it, and I had time to think about it, and it wasn't as great as I remember it, but still good enough to be on this list. Saving Mr. Banks. I did praise this movie, but the more I thought about it, the more I got a little irritated about the flashback sequences. Though the sequences where they're actually making the movie Mary Poppins, I think, are the best ones. Because, you know, I love Mary Poppins. I was really engaged to see how this movie got made, how this classic got made, and just thinking of the idea of, if this stuff hadn't happened, this movie probably wouldn't have existed. But it's got great performances. Emma Thompson is incredible. Tom Hanks is really good. And it's just got other great performances that I really liked. This movie, and the ending did make me cry, and an ending like that deserves to be on this list. For a long while, I predicted that the number 9 movie would be the best comedy of 2013, and I held on to that prediction ever since I saw This Is the End. And it turns out I was right. The World's End is my favorite comedy of 2013, the final movie in Edgar Wright, Simon Pegg, and Nick Frost's Cornetto trilogy. It's not the funniest of the three. I don't think it's as funny as Shaun of the Dead or Hot Fuzz, but it is a very, very funny movie. And what separates this from the other two is that it has somewhat of a more heartfelt story than the other two. I also love how Nick Frost and Simon Pegg's roles are reversed, where Nick Frost is actually the more competent one this time, while Simon Pegg is not. This movie is really great, really funny. I saw it at the Alamo Drafthouse, which probably heightened my enjoyment of the movie. But it doesn't matter where I saw the movie or how I saw it, this movie is still great nonetheless. I love this movie, really funny. Thank you, Edgar Wright, for this movie and for your other movies, and good luck with Ant-Man. And speaking of Ant-Man, that is a brilliant segue for the number 8 movie, Iron Man 3. This is a movie that I thought for a long time, do I really like this movie? And the more I thought about Iron Man 3, the more I actually really did like this movie. Not my favorite superhero movie, not my favorite of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but still very entertaining, very good, a nice way to end the solo Iron Man movies, though he's going to be back in Avengers. Come to peace with the Mandarin twist, despite its small problems and the fact that it shoves Christmas down your throat, which I enjoyed that. It's still a very good movie, really entertaining. Robert Downey Jr. delivers. I'm glad that he's coming back for Age of Ultron and Avengers 3. So that's Iron Man 3, my 8th favorite movie of 2013. Number 7 is one of the smaller movies I saw back during the summer, and was really wondering, would it stay in my mind long enough to make it to this list, and I'm happy to say it has. The Way Back, the directorial debut of Jim Rash and Nat Faxon, who wrote this movie and co-wrote The Descendants with Alexander Payne, is a very, very nice movie. It's really good, got great performances. I guess I love this movie a lot because the main character reminds me of me, so I can sometimes relate to it. Sam Rockwell steals the entire show. Steve Carell is really good at being this dick, and it has a very realistic tone to it that I really did admire. I love this movie. My 7th favorite movie of 2013. And speaking of that Steve Carell, here's another one of his movies that really shows how childish I can be. Despicable Me 2. I did watch and review the original Despicable Me in prep for this movie, and I gave it the rating of good, not great. And while I stick by that rating, Despicable Me 1 is somewhat okay by comparison of this movie. I still like the first one, but this one is just so much better. I think the animation's a lot cleaner. I like the characters. I really love Lucy Wilde. And Kristen Wiig delivers a great voice performance. The minions are just as funny as ever. And it's just a really, really heartfelt movie that I really like. And I hope it gets nominated for the Oscar for Best Animated Feature, but I don't want it to win. Number 5 is the movie that I want to win the Best Animated Feature Oscar, Frozen. It's funny how for 3 years in a row, Disney has delivered an animated movie better than Pixar has. A lot of people say Frozen is one of the best A lot of people say Frozen is the best Disney movie since The Lion King. I think it's the best movie since Princess and the Frog, but I think it has the best songs since Aladdin. The songs are really great, especially Let It Go, which needs to win the Oscar for Best Original Song. The animation's incredible, it looks beautiful, it has a great comedic sidekick that's not this smartass, but rather just an innocent child, Olaf. Voice performances are really good, really do love this movie, and yeah, that's my favorite animated movie of the year, Frozen. Now we're on to number 4, which has forever ruined my chances of ever going up to outer space, ever. Alfonso Cuarón's Gravity. This movie is so brilliant. I rarely use the word brilliant when it comes to movies, but this movie is just one of those brilliant movies. It's got great level of suspense, almost Hitchcockian suspense. It has a real sense of realism. When debris is hitting the satellite, no noise is made. You're on the edge of your seat the whole time, hoping Sandra Bullock just makes it down to Earth and safely. And by the end of the movie, you're with her, you're like, oh, thank God it's over. But not in a bad way. That's not a bad way. Just like, thank God we're out of space and safe and sound. This movie is just really great. Beautiful cinematography, great effects, great acting. The score is really good. This movie is a masterpiece. Even though I had Despicable Me 2 on this list, number 3 is what I think to be one of the best sequels ever made, The Hunger Games: Catching Fire. I did really, really like the first Hunger Games, but this one is such an improvement. It's just unbelievable. The villains have a much better role. Donald Sutherland is actually more intimidating than he was in the first movie. Philip Seymour Hoffman is a great addition. Jennifer Lawrence never ceases to amaze me with how great an actress she is and how beautiful she is. And that arena scene. I saw this movie again in IMAX, and it is incredible. The entire arena scene was shot in IMAX. Lionsgate, when you release this movie on Blu-ray, you have to have the changing aspect ratios for this scene. It is just so incredible. You're not going to get the same viewing experience at home like you did in IMAX, but the aspect ratio change should be in the Blu-ray. Love this movie, and I am hyped to see the last chapter of The Hunger Games, Mockingjay. Now here's where we get tricky. The top 2 movies are like the top 2. They might switch around every now and then to be my favorite movie this year, but I've come up with a strong decision for this list. My number 2 favorite movie is Guillermo del Toro's Pacific Rim. Yes, I know it's just a giant monster versus a giant robot movie. Yes, some of the dialogue's bad. Yes, the characters are cliched, but I can't resist myself. I'm a big fan of the Godzilla franchise. Really do love this movie. I saw it 3 times in the theater. just so entertaining. I really admire the technical details for all the Jaegers and kaiju. I love all the references that Del Toro pulled from real life and other kaiju movies, even though they're very subtle. It's got a great score, my favorite score of 2013, and it's just a really entertaining movie. And if there's no sequel to this movie, I'm not going to be disappointed because it ends in a way that we don't need a sequel. I can just be happy with this one movie, and I am. Pacific Rim is my second favorite movie of the year. Now, number one, I had a lot of time to think about this one, and I think I made the right choice. My number one favorite movie of 2013 is Jurassic Park 3D. Jurassic Park 3... Oh, wait. No, I'm sorry. Jurassic Park technically came out 20 years ago, but it was released in theaters in 3D. No, it doesn't count. But if this movie was released for the first time this year, Jurassic Park would have been my favorite movie of the year, without a question. But what is my favorite movie of the year? Well, that is Captain Phillips. Coming out the next weekend as Gravity, this movie delivers the same level of suspense and tension that Gravity did. It's more relatable because more people have been on a boat more than they have space, although I don't think they would have been taken over by pirates. But this movie is really intense, got great performances. Tom Hanks is going to get an Oscar nomination for this movie. He is that good. It's so suspenseful, and like Gravity, when the movie gets to its end, you're like, oh, thank God, all those terrible things are over. I really love this movie. It's really great. Again, this movie and Pacific Rim might swap places for my favorite movie of the year, but as of this video, Captain Phillips is my favorite movie of the year. And those are what I consider to be the best movies of 2013, in my personal opinion. Leave a comment on what your favorite movies of the year were. Subscribe to my channel for more stuff in the future. Check out my other channel, AlexG8462. Follow me on Twitter at AlexG8462. Like me on Facebook /The Cinema of Mr. Robinson. And go follow me on Instagram at The Real Mr. Robinson. Share me with your friends and tell them about me. And remember to know it before you see it. This has been The Cinema of Mr. Robinson. And stay tuned for the worst movies of 2013, in my opinion. But until then, I'll see you guys later.